3, 2, 1. So I just saw Sardonicast, and it was awful. I stole my own intro there because
that's how you start everything.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much my quickies at least. Anyway, we're Sardonicast. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks.
I'm Alex from I Hate Everything.
I'm Ralph from Ralph the Movie Maker.
Ready?
YouTube.com/.
There you are. Yeah, there it is.
Shh.
Yeah.
Nothing went wrong that time. We introduced ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Flawless.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
The reason why I said uh-oh before we started recording is because I realized I didn't have an intro to steal that I had in mind. I just got back from a flight from Reno. I was at BLFC, and it was lots of fun. It's a furry, dumb thing. And as I was there, I found out that I actually got accepted to Cannes Film Festival, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm very stoked.
You got accepted to go. You didn't make a movie, and it got accepted to Cannes.
You're right. I did not make a movie this year.
That's really impressive.
I did not make a movie in the past few days. They accepted it before the movie was finished. They're like, this guy's probably going to make something good. So I made the movie in the past 3 days, and now I'm going to France.
That's awesome.
Impressive.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. They've got like a dress code and everything, so that's going to be interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I never once thought in my life that I'd be buying last-minute tickets to France, you know? That was fucking pricey and annoying. But
I bet.
Hopefully I'll see some good shit. There's a lot of stuff that I could see. I might be able to see Under the Silver Lake, depending.
Ooh, please, that would be awesome. That and try to see Climax, Gaspar Noé's new movie.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's playing there.
Yeah, so it's anyway. my badge is only for the last, few days of the festival. And so, there's limitations to where I can be and what I can see. This is a program that they've only just started this year for 20 to 28-year-olds. All you have to do is just write them a letter and say hey, I like film a lot, and then they might accept you.
Is that what you have to do?
And the only reason I got accepted is because apparently some other people canceled, so that's why it was so last minute. So anyway,
I should try that out too.
That's why we're recording early, is because I'm going on a fucking plane to France by the time that we usually record. So it's 24 hours home. I'm literally just here to record the podcast, and that's it. So
wow.
Yeah, holy shit.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
That is commitment. See what we do for you guys?
Week. Ralph, you wanted to mention something.
Oh, is it that the new DSLR guide video came out?
No.
Damn it.
But also,
I've had enough of him. But yeah, I mean, it's great if you guys want to check it out. He films his feet for 3 minutes.
Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah, it's like a foot fetish movie.
Okay, cool.
But beside that, I think we're making a website. We probably are making a website.
We think we're maybe making.
None of us have to, but it's happening.
We have. We don't really know what we're doing yet, but basically, I just wanted to get it. I wanted to put the seed in everyone's head that we are making a website that's going to organize everything, and it's going to have extras for you guys and all kinds of cool things you can do. And I'll have maybe a little subscription service so you get to see episodes early, and you get to see Adam edit the episodes and whatever bonus stuff. You know. Cool stuff like that. Maybe even live streams, maybe not. We have no idea what we're doing yet, but get ready for it because it's going to be cool.
That's why I was confused as to why you wanted to mention it right away, because this is just speculation.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it is coming.
We think the website will have these things.
Yeah, it's
hopefully.
A teaser.
Yeah, who knows? But now you've planted expectations in people's heads.
Exactly. So we got to live up to them.
And if those expectations aren't met, then people are going to be mad.
I'm used to disappointing people. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
My parents had high hopes. Now I'm making YouTube videos.
Now they have high nopes. I have this really weird thing with my brain where my subconscious is an asshole when it comes to me and dreaming a lot of the times. I have very vivid dreams. I know a lot of people don't really remember their dreams. I remember a lot of my dreams. And a lot of the times they're awful, depending on the circumstances of how I'm sleeping. And so obviously I slept on the plane on the way back here not too long ago. And I had a dream that I was in the same plane seat, but there was the guy sitting next to me was this huge gross, sweaty, overweight, like tons of pimples, tons of moles. Basically didn't even have human form anymore. He was kind of like a blob, and he kept like trying to get past me, and he would like lift his arm up, but underneath his arm, his armpit hair was basically like a sword shape. Like it was like pointy. And he would like brush it past my face, and I was just like, nah, and I couldn't move. And I was like, oh no, and this guy was getting his armpit sweat all over my face. Then I was like, oh no, please stop. And I'm like lifting my arms up so that I don't get his armpit in my face. He's like, oh, what? So what are you trying to do? Like he kept getting offended by it. And then he put his hands in my mouth and just started like basically abusing and assaulting me. And this was all very vivid and real. And so it was incredibly traumatic. And I put my hands up and I would try pushing him away, like, please stop. And then as soon as I try pushing the guy away, where I'm like, no, stop doing this, the person in the row in front of me in my dream pulls out their iPad and starts recording as though I'm like the aggressor. Like, oh, look at this fucking guy. Oh, we're going to make sure this goes online. I'm like, no. And it was
Jesus.
fucking awful. And that is the second worst dream I've had on an airplane, with the first being dreaming that the airplane I was on was crashing. That was awful.
God, that's very dramatic.
I'd rather crash than go through that.
Oh my God.
The guy was probably American. I know it was a dream, but it was probably an American.
It was stressful. So that that's why I waited to tell you how my flight was, Alex.
Oh.
Yeah.
I haven't been on a plane since I was like 15.
Oh,
so.
geez.
Really?
Yeah, I just haven't. I don't know what to tell you.
Safest mode of transport, even though it's always scary. There's always a little bit of a fear. You're like, oh, is someone gonna fucking take over the plane? Is it gonna crash? Is something gonna explode?
Yeah.
Is Bane gonna show up?
Is Bane gonna show up? Yeah, that shit. Like a plane attaches to another plane.
Batman.
It's a shame. I keep a dream journal, but I can't find it right now.
Oh.
It's like a document on my computer. I have some funny fucking dreams on there, but whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe another time.
Yeah, dream journals
you should
are cool.
try to keep it, because it gives you a lot of good ideas for either jokes or videos or anything, movies.
Oh man, I have so many dreams where I'm like, oh, that would make a perfect movie, and I write it on my phone like real quickly and then go back to sleep again. You know, just like kind of interrupt my dream, and then I wake up again and I remember the whole thing. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. There's so many plot holes in this shit, but it only makes sense when you're dreaming it. Oh no.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like if it doesn't make enough sense, then it's like, okay, it's not worth.
Well, you can't use the whole idea. You got to use like a little segment of it and then make it. Yeah, that's totally what Charlie Kaufman does. I think sometimes at least.
Or maybe he just smokes a lot of weed, bro.
Yeah, well, weed is the other way of doing that. But weed, the thing is with weed, you can't coherently write anything down while you're on weed.
Unless it's music.
I draw pictures. Yeah, music. Really? I can't do anything. I just write music. Not music. I just draw pictures. That's it. I just draw pictures when I'm home.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a certain amount of people out there that think that like the only way to be creative is to get high, which I just find very strange.
Of course not, but it's a way of being creative. Speaking of people being on drugs while making something, let's talk about Last Jedi.
Oh, perfect transition.
Thanks.
You should win an Oscar for that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, Disney's giving them out, so might as well.
What did you guys think?
What were they thinking?
Where to begin? I have a very strange relationship with The Last Jedi. Like, I go 2 days really liking it, and then the next 2 days I like change my mind. I just can't make my mind up on it. Because a lot of the issues I just don't agree with, some of the major ones. I do think it has problems, so for some reason, because this whole thing happened where someone made a video on my video, so now I have this reputation for not thinking that it's possible to dislike the movie, when even though I never said that. But
I love those.
Like, but anyway, obviously it's fine to dislike the movie. There's plenty to dislike about it, but I also think there is some to like in there too. Like, what are your biggest problems with it? I guess that's the biggest like area to start with, and a jump off point. What do you say is the single biggest issue with The Last Jedi?
Too many women.
Too many women.
They're taking over our movies.
Okay, let's make it clear that that's not one of the issues involved in it.
I'm being completely serious, Ralph.
Yeah.
Stay out of my
underwritten
movies.
Characters. Okay.
I'm tired.
Women are ruining Star Wars. That's okay.
Wow.
The biggest issue is that nothing meant anything. It was a completely pointless movie. And you know what the biggest thing was? It felt like it hated every movie that came before it. And it was like undoing...
In what sense?
It was undoing everything every movie before it had established.
Okay.
And that's what I feel like all of these Disney movies are doing now.
Well,
the Star Wars movies, is that they hate the movie that came before them, and they try to undo everything the last movie did. So it's like we're just constantly going backward. And I bet in the next one, too, when JJ takes charge again, it's going to be, okay, I'm going to undo everything Last Jedi did.
Well, I wouldn't say they hate the previous films. I would say that it's self-explanatory. It's Disney remaking Star Wars in 2015, 2018, you know. Like, that's you're getting exactly what you pay for in that category. And when that sort of thing happens, you don't get a faithful adaptation based on what made the first movies work so well. You get a rehash of things that are kind of trying to be like the first movies and have a lot of money behind them and hope that it works out and advertise it enough that people will see it and hope that brand recognition works out well, and it did, and they are making a shit ton of money. So I mean, that's what we got. I don't know what people expected when everybody was really excited that Disney was remaking Star Wars in the 2015 era, and now people are disappointed because they got a Disney Star Wars film in the 2015-ish era.
I mean, it's basically fan fiction.
I'm just not surprised, and I've never given a shit about Star Wars, so that's kind of where I'm sitting.
Alex and I are more involved in the Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean by it, like, hating the previous movie.
Because all of them are fan fiction. That's just what's going to happen now. Because George is not involved anymore. And, say whatever you want about the prequels, but that's what he wanted to do. So I'm like, okay. The new ones, by the way, aren't as bad as the prequels. But, like, the seven introduced so many things. Captain Phasma, Snoke, the dynamic between Rey and Luke and all these things. And then Ryan gets this stuff, and he's like, okay, I'm going to undo all of it. So, 80% of the movie is him undoing everything that last movie did.
What you just listed there is, like, I wouldn't consider, like, anything major. Captain Phasma is, like, a minor B character who means nothing.
Yeah,
but it still takes up 10 minutes of the movie. It's like 10 minutes of this movie is taken up with, like, this awful scene of Finn calling Phasma a Chrome Dome, and then them fighting with electric swords. And it's like, what the fuck is this now? And that's why the movie kind of feels like a mess.
It's not undoing anything, though. That's just, like... That's very Star Wars to me. They did the exact same thing with the exact, like, equivalent character in the OT with Boba Fett. It's the same thing.
I don't feel that way either. Boba Fett doesn't show up till the second one. And Boba Fett's not...
It is a rehash.
Like, everyone made a big deal about Boba Fett after the fact, but during that movie, he was just Boba Fett. Yeah, he was just Boba Fett. Bubba
Hotep Fett.
But the
like, he was just this guy in the
back. Deal out of Phasma, really?
No. Well, yeah, they do. Well, I guess I'm sorry, the marketing did. So I guess that's partly it. And then Gwendolyn Christie going on about how great of a character Captain Phasma is, and she's in it maybe a total of 5 minutes out of the two movies.
When you said Snoke as well, right?
Yeah, Snoke. They set up this intimidating villain and just kill him at the end because they didn't know what to do with him. Ryan's like, I don't fucking know.
Because
so let's just kill him.
That character isn't interesting. He's just like a rehash of the Emperor.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
He plays his part. He's just like a plot device, effectively, to assist another character. I don't really see the problem in that.
That's not good writing for me. Everyone in the original trilogy does something.
What I take issue with in your criticism here is something that a lot of people have been doing, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think that just because Rian Johnson is the only writer credit, that means that he was the only writer in this multi-million-dollar Disney film. So I don't think he can really be used as a scapegoat for why this film, either bastardizes earlier characters or parts of the franchise, or why it turned out poorly. I don't think he can really be the scapegoat. He's not solely responsible for this project at all.
I completely agree with you but on those certain elements like Phasma and whatever, those had to be his decisions, because I don't know why Disney would decide I don't know why Disney would decide to kill off these characters, like, just willy-nilly.
Oh,
That's something that felt like Ryan wanted that to happen.
That's such a minor part of the film, though. Like, the actual problems with the film is the weird structure of it and weird plot holes. Like, the whole film is kind of based around a chase, right? With, like, a ship running out of fuel is the concept. But there are little things that, like, why don't they, I don't know, send a few destroyers in front of it and just shoot it from the front, stuff like that you can't really argue against. Or like, I know a lot of fans have problems with new things that the Force can do all of a sudden.
I do too.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, they changed it in the prequels anyway too, and they were like, it's midichlorian or whatever.
Which I kind of understand, but I also don't at the same time. Like, what does it actually ruin? Like, I heard the argument that the Force hologram thing like ruins everything, because why didn't they just use it in the past to solve every issue they've ever had, like send someone into the Death Star to destroy it as a ghost or whatever?
There's a kind of a reason for that's kind of a spoiler. Are we going to say that this is a spoiler discussion?
I think it's fine to spoil.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Okay,
Like,
this is a spoiler discussion. Well, my interpretation
Luke dies.
I mean, like, that apparently it's just the, super move that uses all of your PP, and then you're left to flinch and then die.
What does it ruin for you, Ralph?
Well, the Force, I'm a big fan of the original trilogy. I hate what they did with the Force in the
same.
The Force is supposed to be this subtle thing that you never see, and it's like, it's used to fuck with people's heads just a little bit. It's just this, there's always this presence of it. And I think that's way more interesting than having it be used to push things with your hand or to do stupid shit like at the end of the movie where Luke makes a Force hologram.
Why is that stupid?
There's some Force things they do in the movie that are really cool, like when Rey talks to Kylo, and it's just like these shots of them, it's like reverse shot, but they're in different locations and there's a little bit of an echo. Like, that's the Force to me. That feels right. And then there's dumb shit like that.
I don't understand what's dumb about it, though. To me, it makes sense because Luke was established through, like, Yoda. And Yoda's always going on about how the Force is, like, it's not to be used as, like, a weapon and everything. And he uses it in, like, a clever, pacifist way to save everyone.
Turns to anger.
Yoda shooting lightning out of the sky was just fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, that one is hard to defend.
That's hard to defend. I don't like
all
that
these little
Force Ghost
things, though. I don't know if that makes it ruin Star Wars to me.
No, it didn't ruin Star Wars. I just don't think it's a very good movie. There's some good stuff in it. But yeah, I don't like what they did with the Force in it at all.
That's a reasonable perspective.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, a lot of people are really overreacting about this movie, I feel. Like, there's too many extremes, not enough moderate kind of like, oh, it was all right perspectives. Because that's what I think is just like, it was a Star Wars thing, and it was kind of dumb, but so are a lot of the other ones. So
when I first saw it was like right down the middle, and it's leaned more toward negative as time has gone on. But I don't hate it outright. It's still better than the prequels.
I was trying to think about this. Like, the movie clearly has this message, and everything's trying to build towards this concept and idea of, like, failure, and actually has themes. What greater themes do old Star Wars movies have that all build into this central idea, like, of narrative structure? Do they have any beyond, like,
Empire
really vague?
Strikes Back had this theme of failure too, but the thing is, that movie actually had stakes and consequences for the failure. Like, at the end of that movie, things are royally fucked by the end of it, and at the end of this, everyone fails and no one pays for it. All the characters are fine, and they're basically the same people at the end. Finn did absolutely nothing the whole movie, and that one chance he did have to do something, which is sacrifice himself.
I think that's the worst scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that stupid line?
Like, love is gonna save us as a fucking explosion goes off behind him.
Oh, yeah.
As the whole rebellion gets blown up in the background.
The justification for crashing into him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Alex, I like that theme. I like that idea that the rebellion is, like, almost dead, and they're getting hunted down, and it's these few guys left that defend it. It's kind of like the story of 300, where, like, these few men inspire the whole galaxy to rebel against the Empire. Their actions in this movie. But that's not what happens. It's just, like, this boring fucking movie where no one does anything. and then Luke becomes a hologram, and it's like, why didn't Luke just go there and like sacrifice himself?
It was a distraction.
I don't understand that idea either, how that would improve the movie at all.
Yeah.
What is it about Luke not being there that is so...
It was just like this extra step that wasn't necessary. We're like...
Ooh, he can do
But
that.
it's key to it, though,
Luke
isn't it?
goes there as a Force hologram, and then he doesn't die. And then they cut to him... Yeah, but he doesn't die on the... Like, they try to shoot his hologram and he doesn't die. And you're like, oh man, Luke's invincible. And then Luke disappears, and then he just dies on the planet. And it's like, why'd you need that extra step? Couldn't you just go to the planet and kill himself, sacrifice himself in like this dramatic scene? But no, he's just like on a hill somewhere, and he just fades away.
Bye.
That's a personal thing. I mean, you could like that, but that's a little gripe I have with it.
I very much empathize with the perspective that it does kind of bastardize and change how Star Wars is quote unquote supposed to be. But I guess also from the perspective that, you know, I never really gave too much of a shit about Star Wars. I'm just like, to me, a sequel doesn't ruin the original films. You know, like Rec 3 was shit, and I talk about how bad Rec 3 was, but
yeah, it is.
You know, I've still got Rec 1 and 2. It doesn't...
I thought you said Shrek 3 for a second.
No. No. That one was a masterpiece. I'm sorry that you...
Shrek 3 did ruin the Shrek trilogy.
Yeah, I guess like the biggest issue I have with the conversation surrounding this movie is that like the fan culture hype is just so much that people can't handle anything that's not living up to their expectations. You know, where it's like they have this idea of how excited they are for something, and when it doesn't live up to that, it's just like it's terrible. And I guess this is not just that. I'm not trying to like brush away all the criticisms as being that, but it does explain a lot of the like obsessive overreaction that we're seeing. Like, it's not the worst movie ever made. I don't think it ruins Star Wars. No. I don't see how a sequel to something in the franchise can ruin what you love about the previous films. I don't understand that at all.
I've yet to hear a convincing like reason for why it is as bad as it is.
Well, Luke wouldn't do that. He's a Jedi. He wouldn't. Luke would never do that thing that he does in the movie that goes against his character.
I did like everything they did with Luke and Rey and Kylo.
So you did like Luke?
Oh, you liked the milk drinking alien
So
scene.
Luke's one of the most controversial elements.
Yeah, that's a mixed thing. But that's like, at least that's something interesting, and at least the writing was kind of interesting there. But mainly, it was just a messy story where nothing really happened, and it was inconsistent with the rest of this universe, which is mainly the reason why people hate it. Those two reasons.
It is a weird film.
Yeah.
And I don't think... It's definitely not what the fans wanted, but I never approached it from that perspective. I was going into it knowing it was a Rian Johnson movie, and I was just kind of watching it as his interpretation of a Star Wars movie. Like, I don't go in like hoping for things to happen in that same way that I guess some of the fans do. I guess the problems come into when you disagree with what you think a character would do, but I found the motivations behind the actions of the certain characters in the movie to be understandable based on what we know about them. I know people disagree with that, but to me, I can find reasons behind it. So
for Luke, yes, and Rey's a bit better in this movie because she actually, struggles a bit.
I said in my video that I find that a lot of the issues come from the place that J.J. Abrams decided to start this new trilogy from. He said it in a time period where all of the interesting stuff has kind of already happened. We want to see Luke training people. We want to see what happens with Kylo, going evil or whatever. But they jumped so far into the future with this very simplistic set of new characters that are kind of just based in this retread of A New Hope.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what else Johnson could have even done with like what pieces were left at the end of it.
More porgs.
Yeah, that's the issue too, is that they had no plan for any of this. I think Ryan said that in a tweet, that they had no fucking idea. Kathleen Kennedy, who's supposed to be in charge of this thing, like, she doesn't have a plan. These movies are going to make $1 billion each, easily.
No matter what.
That is what baffles me the most.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. That's why it was just messy storytelling, because Finn does nothing the whole movie. Rose is introduced in this movie, and you're like, why is this character even in here? And Poe is off on the side with Lord Dern doing some shit. You know, it's like the only thing mildly interesting in this film was Rey's stuff and Kylo's stuff.
What is frustrating about it is you can see how these characters from the beginning in a different structure and different story could have been really amazing.
Yeah.
Like everything the fans could have wanted, but I don't know, there's just this Star Wars nostalgia attack that Hollywood just knows will work. You know, you shove a TIE fighter and an X-Wing on the screen and they know they're going to get a cheer.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is like, even with everybody denouncing Star Wars from Episode 8, I predict that probably the majority of those same people will still see the next episode.
Of course they will.
You know, even if they're
100%.
going into it just being like, I'm probably going to hate this, you know, they're still going to buy a ticket.
And that's part of it too. Like, it is a new trilogy, so it's hard to look at the full picture without seeing the last one too. So I am reserving some of it to that. Like, if the third one really does just go against everything The Last Jedi did and doesn't build on anything that the previous two ones did, then at the end of it all, it will just kind of been a colossal waste of a bunch of interesting concepts and ideas.
That's what's going to happen because they don't have a plan. So JJ's going to go like, I don't know.
They might have a loose
do
plan.
everything he did.
I don't know, like, there wasn't a plan for Empire, was there? And they still made one of the best Star Wars movie,
That's
arguably.
true too.
So I wouldn't write it off quite yet. I don't know, we might see something good from it and it might complete it. We just don't know until it comes out.
I am expecting a plot twist in the third episode.
Oh,
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
A plot twist that may or may not explain away some of the issues that people have with this trilogy. You know, we might get a plot twist explaining why Rey's a Mary Sue.
Yeah, maybe. That too. Rey didn't earn the Force at all.
Exactly.
And yet
like,
she's
they
a
might
master
explain
at it.
that.
Yeah, but there's
still
no
another movie.
In terms of a story, like how effective it is in the original trilogy that Luke basically sucks at the Force until the very end of the last one. And even then, he could barely beat Darth Vader. Because Darth Vader goes easy on him. Like, that's the only reason, like, Luke wins that fight. Like, he struggles to get the Force, but he really wants to do it. And Rey, in the first one and the second one, is just fucking whining the whole movie. And then she wins the Force anyway. She masters the Force.
Hell yeah.
Without having any genetic blood tie to anything, or being trained thoroughly. It's just, it's given to her.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with Rey is that her cockiness should end up with her, like, tripping at some point. Like, she's so powerful, it needs to have some kind of repercussion. You know, like, she can do everything immediately. She doesn't have to, like, earn or work for it, and I'd be okay with that if it had some kind of greater effect or repercussion as a result of, like, if she was built up from the start of, like, wow, look how, like, powerful I am from, like, nothing, I'm, like, the greatest, and it led to some kind of consequence that made her learn a lesson or change. That could be interesting.
There's no consequences.
A lot of these characters, including Rey, don't exist to be characters. They exist to pander towards demographics. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that's the character itself is secondary. And that's what Disney does, and that's what I was expecting from a Disney Star Wars remake. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's why people call her a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get the criticism. It's kind of become, I guess, taboo to say Mary Sue now.
You know what's very interesting?
What?
Is that Disney is willing to appeal to basically every minority demographic possible, except gay people, because that doesn't sell in China.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, no gays, no ghosts. Those are the rules.
Did you ever see the Chinese poster for the Star Wars movies? And it's the same poster, except
Yeah.
Finn. They just make Finn, like, really small. It's like, holy shit. Isn't that fucking horrible?
Isn't that kind of fucked up, though? Like, that
It is.
now Hollywood is just making movies for China? Because they're a huge audience now, and that's why we see these trends.
I mean, the Black Panther poster, they covered Chadwick Boseman's face with the Black Panther mask as well.
Yeah.
They don't want Chinese people to know there's a black man in that suit.
But it's like it's not even just the marketing. It's like it's the films themselves. You know?
Do you think they re-edit these movies? With
well,
like,
I mean,
they just CGI Finn out and put Jai Courtney there or something.
There's actually a Wikipedia list of like edits that films have made for the Chinese market. And which films are banned and, you know, what changes were made to certain films. It seems like from Disney, for the most part in this current year, that they're just tailoring the films from day one with the Chinese audience in mind. You know?
Yeah,
that's why you don't have a gay character, but you have every other minority in current Disney movies.
But China doesn't like Star Wars. It doesn't do that well there.
Why do they even bother?
I don't know. They make some money, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
It's still a big market, I guess, regardless.
Yeah.
They prefer, like, more colorful... I mean, this is from what I've read. They prefer more colorful sci-fi, like Guardians of the Galaxy, something like that. You know, where it's, like, upbeat and fun. Transformers, yeah, that's another one. There's, like, levity to it.
I want to see Stephen Chow direct a Marvel movie.
I would love that, too.
That'd be awesome.
That would be great. That's another issue with the movie, too. It's very tonally inconsistent, where you got the Porgs in there... And then you got fights with, like, hardcore violence, people getting decapitated. So it's this blend of, like, who's this movie made for? I guess it's kind of made for everybody, but it doesn't really mesh.
What'd you guys think of the fight scene with the red dudes?
I love that fight scene.
I didn't.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, you thought it was too slow, right?
The choreography just didn't seem realistic at all. They built it up so much, you know? They built it up as this, like, oh, can't you wait until this fight scene's gonna happen? And then it happened. I'm like, this didn't seem believable. It didn't seem fluid. It seemed like there were a lot more days of rehearsal that they could have had for the choreography. That's how it felt to me.
You have the right to think that, but I thought it was awesome. And it was so different too to have a lightsaber fight that's not just two guys with a lightsaber.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Two lightsabers don't even touch in the whole film.
Yeah. I do like that as well.
Yeah, I feel it's so weird that I feel like my opinions on this film are like very opposite to other people. Everybody hates the casino scene. I'm like, that's where it started getting kind of fun for me, you know? Yeah, I mean, like, sure, it felt filler-ish, but, I mean, it was the first part in the movie where I was, like, not bored, I guess.
Did you like that they rescued the animals, but not the children who were slaves?
Yeah!
And then they're like, this is the real victory, as the fucking child slaves still get whipped.
But the kids, but the babies can use the Force at the end credits anyway. All they needed was some encouragement, so they'll be fine. Yeah.
The kid has a broom, and he has like a ring that came out of a cereal box with the Rebellion sign on it.
It's the Infinity Stone.
Break. And then the Mickey Mouse logo appears in the stars.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened.
I have a question for you guys.
Yes.
How do you think these films are going to age? So add on 10 years... how many Star Wars films will we have in 10 years? Like, and looking back at these films, what do you think the general consensus is going to be? 'Cause I really don't know anymore.
Well, I mean, Star Wars
well.
is just it's the whole fucking brand, right? Like, you can't escape it. Like, theoretically, people shouldn't still be talking about the prequels, but we still talk about them, even when there weren't new Star Wars movies in development. Like, they're always going to be a point in a conversation. They're always going to be a hot topic, you know.
Yeah.
People don't shut up about Star Wars. It's always going to be a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess the films themselves,
I mean, more on if
quality-wise...
you know, the internet kind of comes to a unanimous decision on if something's quality or not. Like, what's the result going to be in the end?
I don't know.
It depends on the third movie, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't expect it to save everything, but there's a chance, I guess, for some people.
I mean, it could. Star Wars fans... I think, from what I know, because I know quite a few Star Wars fans, including someone who loves the prequels, and he hates these new movies. He hates all of them except Rogue One.
Right.
So, I don't know. I really don't.
I guess part of it is just there are so many Star Wars fans. Like, no matter what is released now, there are going to be huge sects who hate it and huge sects who love it, and there'll be a big chunk in the middle. And
I mean, there's no pleasing everybody, because no matter what you do, you're going to piss someone off, which is part of the reason why I'm just like, maybe just don't make them anymore. But
that's not
going to happen.
Yeah. Let's not make the billions.
But you could just leave a good thing alone.
Yeah.
Why would you?
I feel like if Rian Johnson, if they gave him so much creative control that it was all his fault, then I feel like we would have had the Lord and Miller solo film, you know? If Disney was giving people creative control, then why didn't that happen, you know? Like, I feel like the Rian Johnson film was what Disney wanted. You know?
Totally. I mean, they had the same issues with Rogue One, where they kept re-editing the movie to make it, more upbeat.
Yeah.
They're fucking with all of them. I guess Ryan put up the least amount of, of a fight compared to the other guys, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't blame Ryan entirely. I mean, just the structure of the movie's kind of a mess. The movie ends 30 minutes after it should have ended. There's a lot of things I said.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult film to talk about. Like, just like the movie, all the discussions around it are messy.
Yeah. I mean, you could go on for hours about this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Just the reaction to it.
Yeah, I still haven't made my mind up, and I think it's going to take more time to come to a conclusion.
I feel like it would be easier for me to come to a solid conclusion about this film if I watched it a second time, but I don't want to, you know?
Yeah,
if you don't care, who cares?
Whether it's a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or whatever, it's one of those. It's not a 7. No matter what, it's like I don't have any interest in seeing it again, which is most Star Wars films for me, so...
It's so inconsistent. I don't think I'd ever watch it again.
Yeah.
And Force Awakens is a remake of New Hope, but I rewatched Force Awakens I think 3 times.
Oh, wow.
It's an entertaining movie. I've not by myself. I've watched it with other people.
Oh,
my family,
yeah.
whatever.
Your
my
enablers.
Friends. Yeah, my enablers. But it's a fun movie. I'm like, that was entertaining. I laughed. I had a good time. It didn't feel long. And this was just like it was a disaster, kind of, with some good nuggets of gold in between, but still
some nuggies,
some good nuggies.
Yeah,
I get that people like it though. I totally see where you're coming from, Alex, but I can't. I can't take it.
I don't know. I'm just fully taking it for what it is. I mean,
I
don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either.
It's just something that, like, when the third movie comes out, I'll probably have more of a solid opinion, because then it'll be in perspective of the trilogy, which, theoretically the trilogy is its own piece, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how I've been thinking about it.
I know an older Star Wars fan as well, and he was telling me when Empire Strikes Back first came out, because he was alive during that time, people hated it. They had the kind of the same reaction as they did to Last Jedi, and now we look back on Empire Strikes Back like it's a classic.
Yeah, that's not going to happen here.
Does he like The Last Jedi?
That's not going to happen. Did he see The Last Jedi? No, he didn't. Because he has kids. Maybe he didn't get a chance to when I was talking.
Oh, okay.
Well. Is that all you... Is all we have to say about it? Did you like the porgs?
This discussion is just fizzled out by the end. Like,
it's
the fuck is there to even say anymore? Yeah.
Fuck
I feel like everyone said everything.
Yeah.
Get the women out of my movies. Fuck the Star Wars. Fuck representation. We need them out.
Rose,
they get out of my movies.
There's a difference, because Rose was clearly thrown in there because they wanted an Asian character, and she's a completely useless character. She could have just been the hacker, really. She could have been the hacker, but I guess they thought that was offensive to make the only Asian character a hacker.
I just want to see, like, actual representation, Like, I want to see like Asian American characters. A good character. In, like, instead of Tom Cruise in, like, a Mission Impossible movie, but not Mission Impossible, its own thing, Like, I feel like it's borderline offensive when you're taking pre-existing properties and it's like, but now we've got the black version. It's like, well, what? Can we not have something successful that's its own original concept? Like women Ghostbusters sort of thing. Like, it's not the issue that it's women, it's that you're bringing nothing to it other than gender swap. Or like, oh, different race now. Like, that's the only sellable factor. And you're expecting the movie to ride on that and that only. And it's very kind of insulting,
It's a marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
And that's offensive to me. Like, they're doing that with the Oceans movie now. Oceans 8. And it's like, oh, we have 8 women, so they're going to steal jewelry. It's like, what the fuck?
God.
That's not cool. What's cool about stealing a diamond necklace?
It's pandering to the point where I'm surprised more people aren't offended by it. I'm a gay dude. I wouldn't want gay Ghostbusters, That pandering to me, and expecting that I'll automatically like it because apparently I can't relate to people who aren't gay or something. You know? It's like, I didn't relate to these straight characters before, but now, you know.
Hollywood, they're a bunch of cowards. They never take any risks.
Yeah, I want the gay furry Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I just
Star Wars.
Star Wars, everybody.
Star Wars. It's brings out
Is
the
there going
worst
to be
in
an
people.
insane reaction to Solo? That's the
No,
next
because that's a
question.
spin-off. Even if it
No
sucks,
one
people
gives
are
a
be
shit.
like, well, it was a spin-off. I guess it's a character from the original, so...
Yeah, I have no interest in seeing it. I'm going to see it because I want to make money off the review I'm going to make. But, like, if I didn't have to make that review, I would not see it. And this isn't, like,
Yeah, I'm not
bullshit.
gonna see it.
I would not fucking sit in a theater and watch that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to see it
looks
just
so-
to make money.
Yeah, it looks so boring.
Okay.
Speaking of Donald Glover, surprise topic. What did you think of the This Is America music video, if we're done talking about Star Wars?
Yeah,
It
well,
was awesome.
yeah, it's really good.
It was cool.
That's that.
I like, the way that the internet was reacting to it initially. You can't open a social media page without seeing it there. I was expecting a lot more from the filmmaking in the music video. And so I watched it, and, the choreography is clever, not insanely impressive, but it has a purpose, which I like. Hidden meetings, et cetera, et cetera. But I was actually kind of taken aback by how kind of simplistic it was at the same time, which is not necessarily something that makes it bad, but...
The song's pretty simplistic too, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything kind of fit perfectly in it.
Yeah.
I had no issues.
I just like the memes that have come from it more than
Oh,
anything.
too.
racist!
Oh yeah, there
when
were
you
articles like, if you're making memes out of this music video, you're racist. And then under that article was 1,000 memes.
Well, yeah. It's a Vice article saying, for the love of God, don't meme the Childish Gambino This Is America music video. First of all, that's incredibly disingenuous, because if you're writing for an online journalistic publisher, you already know that as soon as you say that, people will respond by making memes. So if you don't want that to happen, you are doing the opposite of what you should be doing. You disingenuous prick.
It's junk journalism, and they clearly just did that to get more clicks. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
And what I usually do is ignore it.
Yeah.
There was an article about how Westworld is the equivalent of manspreading because it's really long and it takes up time you could be spending watching girls or something.
What?
Like, that's literally what the article's saying.
What?
And I wanted to write like a 7-page essay on it, but I'm just like, nah, it's not even worth it.
It'd be exhausting.
You gotta ignore shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to fairly represent the criticisms against the memes, the argument is that it misses the point. And I can agree with
Right.
that, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong for doing it. Because I feel like when you meme something, like, you're just taking an image of, Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, in his pose, shooting somebody in a chair. That exists independently. Like, that image exists independently of the music video as soon as it's brought into a new context, right? So you can say, like, me, and then, like, my haters or whatever. You're not commenting on the music video itself just because you took an image from it and memed it. Like, so many memes that exist have still images from movies where, like, the memes have literally nothing to do with it, Like, they're independent of each other. And
I'd
it's
say the
just
meme
so
is
stupid to try
good.
and
It
enforce
keeps
it
it
that way.
in the conversation.
Yeah,
It keeps
exactly.
it relevant. It keeps people talking about it and going back to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you want to share the message of the music video, the memes are actually a good thing, because people are going to be on the internet being like, oh, what the hell is this thing that everybody's memeing? And then watch the actual source material.
Yeah.
I probably
exactly.
wouldn't have been so quick to watch the music video if there
Same.
weren't all these memes coming out of it. That brings people to be more interested in it. And I don't understand why people can be so elitist and gatekeeping about what you can meme, It's so stupid.
Because they got clicks. They got
Yeah.
clicks.
Not just the journalists, but you look at the actual article, and they brought up all these tweets from different people being like, oh man, all these people just suck so much because they're memeing the music video, and you're supposed to take this whole thing seriously and never take lighthearted approaches to anything in life that has any kind of political message to it that I agree with. Like, okay, fuck off.
Yeah.
So stupid.
The fun police.
Yes.
Yep. Women are ruining Star Wars.
Get him out! Get him out of my Star Wars!
But see, like that, like a bunch of idiots say that, and then Vice or journalism like that fucking responds to those people, validating them, and then those people respond, and it creates this whole cycle of hatred and stupidity. So that's why I just fucking ignore it, because it's all dumb.
I'm hoping that the conversation around the memes of the music video gets to the point where in Donald Glover's next interview, someone asks him if he thinks that it should be memed, and my impression is that he would respond, especially because he's a fucking comedian, come on. He would probably respond with something like, of course people can meme the music video, are you crazy? And I'm waiting for that interview question to be published so I can just be like, you fucking idiots. Because I totally expect that if he were asked that, he would probably validate what we're thinking. And maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right.
But I don't think Childish Gambino is this like, you cannot meme this serious music video that I made. Like, come on. I don't really expect he would do that.
But then they'll write another article like, it doesn't belong to him, it belongs to culture, and he doesn't get to decide.
Yeah.
Oh my god, please.
Like
why Donald Glover is wrong about his own music video.
Yeah, that's sort of that'll be the title, right?
Oh, I love
Dude,
those.
just start a journalism site and write shit like that.
Yeah, fucking gatekeeping galore, man. It's everywhere.
God.
Jesus Christ.
Wake up, sheeple.
I'm gonna. Are we cool with switching topics to the film?
Yeah, let's
Hell
do it.
yeah.
And then we can fill up the rest with questions after. Yeah.
Okay,
Damn straight.
Damn straight. Okay. So we had a recommendation from last episode, a film that I had wanted to see again for a long time because I really enjoy the experience of this film and I like revisiting it every so often. Hadn't seen it in a while, so I thought, perfect. I know these guys haven't seen it. It is Alejandro González Iñárritu's first feature film called Amores Perros. And this is a spoiler discussion, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this movie, which I think is a really great movie, then watch the movie. And there'll be a spoiler discussion next week for a film that will be recommended at the end of this podcast. If you want to skip the discussion, there are timestamps in the comments or description. What'd you guys think of this film?
Well, life is a bitch, that's for sure.
Yep. I like that the title's a pun.
Love's a bitch.
Is this like the counter Isle of Dogs movie?
Oh, yeah.
So Adam, you heard us talk about how much we love dogs.
Yes,
so
I did.
A movie where dogs get just fucking brutally murdered and killed and like fight each other. This movie was really hard to watch.
Yeah,
I was flinching consistently.
So you got an experience out of it.
Like, I didn't think a movie could make me flinch like that, but I really couldn't look at it sometimes. It was just so horrible. I felt so bad for the dogs.
But what is important to note about that, though, is one of my pet peeves is when dogs are used for, like, emotional manipulation, but it doesn't it doesn't do that. It fits into the scenes, you know, it's relevant to the story. It's not manipulative. It's just part of this world that we're shown.
The dog's not just, like, thrown in there like a horror movie or like Terminator 2, you know? Just so that you can see a dog die. It's like it's a part of the story.
Yeah. Well, that's the point of the movie, is that all these people take their emotional baggage and kind of put it on their dog. You know? So it totally fits. I mean, I said I flinched, but I would never criticize the movie for that because it clearly wanted to do that, and it was very effective. I thought this movie was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. It's very dense is the word I would use. It's just so much going on, you know. It's about so many different elements, be it greed, jealousy, hate, love, loss, death. Just like every single thing a human ever can experience is touched upon in this film in some form.
And you got different age ranges, and you got different classes. There's rich people, and there's really poor people, and then there's exploration of the middle class. It's like, it's dense is a good word for it.
The film's kind of split into 3 segments that overlap. What are your guys' favorite one if you had to pick one of these 3 segments?
That's the thing, is that I've seen other movies try this, and usually, like, I think of Place Beyond the Pines, where the first segment is the best one.
Oh, then
and
the movie just
the other
falls
2
apart,
segments.
yeah.
I know, exactly.
Oh
And I was like, this movie better not do that. And yet all 3 of the stories were equally brilliant. I mean, they're obviously
in their
totally
own way,
different in their own way, but each story was compelling. And they didn't totally abandon a story once one ended. You see snippets of it throughout, which I also liked. So it kept you, like, the pacing was so perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was very, very well done. There were like lots of nice little editing tricks I noticed with the transitions, like that really nicely flowed them, the different stories together. Like there was the one where I think there was a dog fight, and then it cuts to a funeral in another one. You know, so it leads in beautifully with things like that. There are just loads of those too. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but the more you look at it, the more you find things like that, little details.
Yeah, for first feature, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
2.5 hours long.
Could you imagine this being your first fucking movie? Like, he had 2 shorts before this. This is his first movie. This is his first feature-length
Very ambitious,
film. It's insane.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah,
he's a crazy director.
I was reading about that. That he was struggling to get like a kind of form together. No, in editing, like, because there's just so much meat on the bone. They were trying to, mold it into something that worked. And if I remember correctly, I think he took it to Guillermo del Toro, who helped out to kind of trim some of it and advise to get in. Because I think Guillermo was like originally, this is good, but I think with some trimming, this could be like a masterpiece. So I think that's kind of where the process came from with that one.
Yeah, it really does feel like a classic, and it's so strange that I mean, sure, a lot of people have probably seen it, but it's not really that relevant in conversation when people talk about, classic films from like the early 2000s. Not a lot of people. Bring this up in conversation.
It's a hard movie to watch, especially that first part. Like, the movie starts right off the bat with the dog fighting, and it's really, I can imagine, I didn't watch this with my family, even though I'm at home. Like, I cannot imagine them sitting through it. They would probably shut it off in that first part, which is why I think people have that, where it's like, oh, it's 2.5 hours of this? This is fucking horrifying. I can't watch this.
It's not like torture porn, though. It's very realistic. It's not played for shock horror. More so than tasteful. Like this happens. Like this shit happens in the world. Like, and it seems quite genuine in the way that it's shown to us. So,
I was reminded of a website called doesthedogdie.com, and this this movie's on it, and it says yes.
Yeah.
That it does really affect people emotionally in a lot of ways. You see these recurring threads over and over again on Reddit of people saying that they only care when a dog dies and they don't give a shit when a human dies. And I don't think that this movie was like intentionally trying to manipulate people in that way, but it does provide kind of a very borderline depressing experience in some ways.
But I'd say so.
There's so much emotional weight to every single one of these stories that they would still be emotional without the dogs, but they're incredibly emotional with the weight of the dogs being in the film. It's this strange psychological effect that is placed on human beings because dogs over time have just been bred to be cute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That, and we're not as conditioned to violence against dogs in movies. In movies, like I think every movie has one guy getting shot at this point. So we're just like, whatever. But a dog, never, dude.
Yeah, that scene towards the end with the old guy where he like adopts the fighter dog unknowingly, and then he comes home. That was the one that got me.
And he's like going through every dog, like, "Are you alive?" And their tongue is hanging out. I'm like, oh
it's just horrible.
And yet, when he holds the gun to that one dog who did it, you're like, "Don't shoot the dog! You didn't know."
Yeah.
But you can you can feel the emotion from him, like how much all these other dogs meant to him. That in his fit of rage, that he might do something like that. I do actually have a favorite segment, and it would be the homeless hitman segment. So I really enjoyed that one so much. It's a great segment to end the film on for me.
Yeah.
Everything kind of like crescendos in a way, and the soundtrack especially. I like the like that guitar theme, like I'm not going to try to recreate it right now, but as the homeless hitman is walking towards the camera on the street with his like cart and all the fucking dogs around him, and you hear the same theme again, but now it has like a really cool beat to it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's like one of my favorite shots of the movie, just because of like how everything flows emotionally, especially with the music. Did you know that the composer for this film is the same guy that did the soundtrack for The Last of Us?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I was gonna say it sounds just like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like, it's so similar.
I
Great
thought the
composer.
like palette was very similar.
Yeah.
And I went and researched it.
He's worked with Iñárritu on most of his films, I think. Recently, Birdman and The Revenant, I think, were different composers, though.
Yeah. Well, he didn't fit those movies.
It doesn't fit at all.
Yeah. He did a great job.
Very different styles. In between this movie and Birdman, none of the films in between are as good as either of these, but they're still really good films. Like, they'll probably be showing up on my lists, even though I just haven't seen them in a while. I would like to revisit them. A lot of them are really fucking depressing. Like, if you're the more familiar with this director you are, you'll realize that he just makes depressing as shit films, except Birdman, which is like literally the least depressing movie he's ever made, and it's still kind of depressing.
It is.
Like the closest to it.
It's got a shiny veneer, a shiny Hollywood veneer to it.
Yeah. It's like ironically depressing.
Well, it's part of the, what is it called? The Death Trilogy or something? I was reading.
Whatever. I forget what he called the trilogy, but
yeah, something like that.
It's
how
whatever
charming.
he decided to do, where basically this movie and 13 Grams and Babel are all just, they all have their own themes. Like Babel is themed on like miscommunication, but they all have the 3 storyline structure of characters that are connected, and just depressing things happen to them is basically the gist of those movies.
Gather the family around, everybody. We're gonna watch the Death Trilogy.
Oh man,
Ralph,
Grab
if you
your
had to
kids.
pick, what would your favorite be out of the 3?
Segment. I gotta go with the first one.
Okay, mine would be the first 2. I was just curious to see, because I think the weaker one is the second one. Purely because of the one thing that I don't know if you guys can explain to me is the dog under the floorboards. Like, how long was it under there? I found it a little strange
days.
how they
like
they
2 or
weren't
3 days.
like doing more to get it or something. I don't know. There's just something about that was kind of strange to me. Like, they just
because
went
the
to
husband
sleep.
didn't give a fuck, which I thought that segment was totally needed, because it was much lighter. It's still depressing, but it's much more has a lighter tone than the other two, because the husband just doesn't give a fuck about this dog. And they hear it at night crawling around the floorboards, and dogs do stupid things like that too, so I totally bought it.
Yeah, there are some unrealistic elements to this film, and there are some like cheesily presented elements to this film. It's not like a perfected, it's not as meticulous as his later films.
That just stood out to me because everything else seemed so realistic.
Oh, of course.
And something like that happening kind of pulled me out just a bit.
I agree with you there. That's probably the weakest segment for me as well. But in a way, I found it to be kind of more of like a symbolic set piece rather than necessarily what was actually happening literally. It almost felt as though the tone of the second segment took on kind of a like supernatural approach in a sense. Almost weird suspense kind of horror-y vibe to it, and there was like a phone jump scare, and like it's its own tone separate from the other 2 segments, which is very strange, but it still works well on its own, even though it is a little weaker.
Yeah.
It's an interesting
handheld,
story.
The shooting style.
Yeah,
it was definitely much more steady, and a lot more wide shots in that segment.
But yeah, it's more like, like the dog and the situation is almost a way to bring out the troubles in the characters' relationship that are experiencing this. It's a way to kind of emphasize the underlying issues that they have towards each other in a way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The movie definitely has realistic elements in it, but there are things like that where I'm like, where are the police? Are there police in this fucking world?
It's
I don't
Mexico.
think I saw one police officer. Yeah, I think Mexico has some police officers in it. I think if there's a giant car crash in the intersection or if someone gets shot, fucking police will show up. Whatever. Those are little things I was like, fine.
What do you guys think
me.
the mirror thing is all about?
Mirror?
Did you notice that?
What?
The lots of mirrors. Like there are loads of shots of mirrors in the movie. Did you not notice? I just kept noticing it.
Yeah,
There's that really cool one in the bathroom where it's shot with there's a reflection in the mirror.
Yeah, you're right. There
and
are
it spins over.
Scenes.
If you watch it again, look out for mirrors. Like it's just
this
continuous theme. Like it's in it a bunch.
Yeah, I just wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just looking away because all the dogs getting killed.
There's definitely like a lot of different themes taking place at once in this film. It is a really loaded, packed movie.
That's the thing. How many times have you seen it, Adam?
That's a good question. Probably this is my fourth or fifth.
Is it one of those films where you discover more every time, or like notice things you didn't notice before?
Yeah, not in a way that like fits in a perfect puzzle though. Not in kind of like Synecdoche, New York, or But there's definitely more to pick up on the film with each watch. However, the majority of times that I watched it, I was fairly young, and so it's been a while, and so this recent watching was kind of like a new experience, and a lot of what I wound up noticing on this watch were some of the elements that I did find kind of like kind of cheesy, that didn't really bother me as much before, and then also like the thematic elements that I just didn't really give much attention to when I was younger. Like one of my favorite lines from this watch was when the girl says, "My aunt says to make God laugh, tell him your plans." And I think that is kind of just a nice line to fit with what happens to the characters in this film, is kind of a theme for the characters. And there's several different themes going on at once in this film.
I liked how the non-linearity of it all wasn't over-explained. It's easy to shove text all over the screen and over-explain everything and treat the audience like idiots, but it does trust you to be able to follow what's going on and link everything together and notice when something's in the past or the future or present and whatnot. I appreciate that element of it.
The most important ones are like before the car crash, after the car crash. Everything else you can it makes sense as long as you have that. And then in that scene, they're all present within that scene,
Yeah.
And it wasn't showy or distracting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look how artsy I am. I saw a Tarantino movie.
Look at how purposeful this is. It didn't try to
it
do
all
that, which
fit.
is really cool.
It fit the story so well.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I really
all the acting was terrific too. I don't think we mentioned that, but every performance is fucking great.
There's a lot of details in this movie in terms of how it's presented. Like they have the the representation of the kind of like lower middle. I don't know if I would call them middle class, but like the gang sort of like lower class, and then you have the higher class society, and it's like, okay, well, this is being represented in a way where I can believe that these are kind of elite celebrity people, and then the homeless man, and you look at like you can see certain shots of like his hands where you can tell how long his fingernails are and how much dirt is underneath them, where it's just like you barely see movies where you'll have an actor like grow out their nails and like get them all grimy and dirty and then show it. Like it's very nice, important details that they're like, okay, this is exactly how someone who's basically homeless would look, and they captured it.
When it makes his change at the end more meaningful, because there's so many films where like they cast a big actor in a role and something happens to them and they're supposed to look disheveled, but they're still, at the end of the day, they're still like Ryan Gosling or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't stop looking like Ryan Gosling.
Give him a little stubble.
Yeah, exactly.
Give him a
that guy
tattoo.
Looks like homeless. He looks homeless.
Yeah.
He looks awful.
It looks like he couldn't play any other character, and then you see his transformation. And you're like, oh wow, this looks like
a different person.
Yeah, a completely different person. Felt a lot more purposeful without it being really forced.
Effective filmmaking.
Yes.
It was interesting to see, because I've only seen Birdman and Revenant before this. It was interesting to see a movie from this guy that's like the exact opposite as the style in those movies, where everything's very steady and the shots are very long, and everything's very quick cut, lots of handheld, lots of jumping around from here to here to here. I thought all that was different. It was cool to see how far this guy has grown.
Yeah.
This movie was a lot less subtle in terms of the plot and understanding it. I mean, sure, there's a lot of details as well, but this is probably one of the most accessible films he's made in terms of the plot, I guess. Not necessarily watching a bunch of dogs die. I guess that's a little inaccessible for people, but in terms of like following a story, this one's just like, it's so clear and just easy to tell what's going on, but it still, doesn't feel dumb.
The complexity comes from the characters more than anything.
Yeah. The characters were really interesting in this film.
All of them, yeah.
Is there anything you guys are not the hottest on? There's only one minor thing I kind of noticed, which might be different if I watch it again, but I found the sound design of the section where the lady's driving in the car right before she crashes to be it was really strange. Like, it was really bare.
Do tell.
She was supposed to be driving in the car, and they keep cutting from inside the car where she's playing something out the radio, and then outside the car. I was watching it with headphones on, and I was just it was very strange because there was no background like audio around. She was driving on the road. Yeah, I don't know if that would.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that second time.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that, because I thought it was my TV. Everything, the sound design just felt kind of empty. There was like a lack of pop to it. Like, you just needed more bass or something. Like, something was off.
Just a few more layers or something of audio in there.
It made everything feel kind of cheap to me.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if that was a
not the whole
thing
movie, but
yeah.
Like, I would have loved to hear some ambient, just the sounds of the city, even if they're inside, just to add to the environment some more.
I want to know what the budget of this film was. I want to know if it's public.
Curious.
It was only a couple million, I think.
Yeah.
I looked at it earlier.
It's like, how much post did it have? Yeah, $2 million USD. Apparently.
Yeah, 2 million.
Wow.
Like, for that stuff, all you have to do is just leave a microphone on in the location you're filming on for like a little bit. So I don't understand why they didn't do that.
Well, that's why I was wondering if it was actually an intentional thing that I like missed or something.
If it is an intentional thing, I don't.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on a first feature, you're less likely to have every detail down, and so I don't know how much of this he was actually overseeing himself, or how much was just outsourced. Like the sound design to another company or individual. So he's definitely improved over the years, that's for sure. Like the sound design in Revenant and Birdman, much improved. Yeah. Except in the Revenant, there's that weird part where like the voice is out of sync for some reason. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, there's always gonna be stuff like that. I forgave it, but it was a thing I noticed, and I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed how empty the sound felt.
The only issues I really have with it is just, the first watch, it's like, it's so easy to get sucked into, and it still holds up on multiple watches for sure. Like, I'm enjoying it every time. But on my most recent watch, I did feel like some parts were a little like cheesy, like it's like,
I can see
things that I would be like, going like, really for any other movie. But it's still,
there's some corny dialogue.
Yeah. But the benefits of this movie outweigh the flaws by a lot. And
definitely.
Considering, it feels like a classic film from the year 2000. And it's on the IMDb top 250, so apparently other people agree. Really? Although that list is not exactly the most credible thing anymore. Avengers Infinity War is on there, I think. Let's see. What is it, number
Black
1
Panther's
now?
number 2. Get Out's number 1. Good
I
job.
have no idea. Oh, yeah, Avengers Infinity War, number 15, best movie of all time. I'm not even kidding!
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
well,
they need to have a better
War,
they need to have a better system so that like new movies that a lot of people are voting on don't just get artificially inflated,
Yeah, well, Love on a Leash has a 10 out of 10, so it should be in the top 250, but
no, you need a certain amount of ratings.
Well, it has 4,000 ratings. Isn't that enough?
I think you need more.
I think you have to get over 100K, don't you?
Come on, dude. Like 4,000 ratings, 10 out of 10. I'd put that in the top 250.
I still need to see it.
Yeah, you should.
I would love to watch that movie.
Another great dog movie. It's very similar to this. Yeah.
I think it has a lot of similar themes, actually.
Yeah. A lot of love and dogs, and that's about it.
Yeah. Amazing soundtrack. Are you guys going to check out more Iñárritu films, I guess?
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah,
I hope to do
yeah,
that.
for sure.
I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on his films in between this and Birdman, because a lot of them are really divisive in ways. Like,
There's the Brad Pitt one, isn't there?
Yeah, and I still love that film from memory. Like, I haven't watched it in a while also.
Yeah.
There are parts to his films that, like, I guess seeing a lot of them in succession, they start to feel like over dramatic in a sense. Where it almost just feels like the priorities of the film are the conflict in a sense. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'll have to see it again. But yeah, there's a lot
of
cool themes that I love in Babel for sure. And Beautiful is awesome, depressing as shit movie. And anyway, highly recommend at least checking them out just to see what they're like for yourself.
That's cinema, though, being overdramatic. That's drama.
Yeah,
so I don't mind it.
yeah.
I think this is a great movie. 5 out of 5, I think, if we're going to do ratings at this point. Great movie.
What about
Beautiful.
you, Alex?
Either 4.5 or 5, yeah. All my complaints are basically nitpicks or just small
Same
little
here.
things. The overall picture is extremely solid. It's definitely not for everyone, especially for people who love dogs.
But it
there's that type of person who can't deal with it, with the dog thing. So warning to those of you, if you haven't seen the film and you still need convincing.
Don't watch this movie with the dog in the room.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like dogs and pain sounds. My dog kept looking like, what's going on?
Yeah, wow. I didn't even think
Jumped
about
on my
that.
lap while I was watching it.
Oh no.
Aw,
Well, I'm sorry for traumatizing your dogs.
it's okay.
I apologize.
You forgot about it.
Yeah, I would give this. I give this a 10. It's either that or a 9.5, but I don't think IMDb lets me do that. So I mean, round it up to a 10. It's not like a completely flawless movie. It is a little cheesy, as I've said, but what it achieves and like the emotions that it brings out, it's a very unique, very watchable, very entertaining film, and very well paced for like 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't
Never
feel
boring.
it at all.
Never boring.
Yeah. Is this your favorite movie from him?
I think after watching it this most recent time, I would have to. I know I said it was better than Birdman. I think they're tied right now. They both excel at different things. They're both great in their own
So
way,
different, yeah.
and they're almost difficult to compare because they're just so incredibly different in terms of what their tone, what their style, and what their goals are. Like insanely different movies. You can barely tell it's the same director. Honestly,
I was
you
about
can't.
to say the same.
I mean, like you wouldn't even know if it wasn't on IMDb.
Yeah. That's a good sign of growth.
Yeah, it's insane.
Hear that, Wes Anderson? Oh well.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I'm excited to see what he comes up with, because like it seems as though he's like in his prime right now for like Revenant and Birdman. Those are like two very impressive films, at least from like a presentation directorial standpoint that he's made in a row, 2 years in a row. He also made I don't know if you're aware of this. He made a virtual reality short film that like screened at Cannes one year, and I don't know if that's ever going to be released in a way that I could see it, but I really fucking want to. Yeah, 2017. It's called Carne y Arena, and my accent is terrible, but holy shit! Like, just if anybody could make a cool short VR film, it's like 7 minutes long. It would be him. I would love to see that. Yeah, they had a complete VR installation at Cannes last year.
That's cool.
That would have been fucking cool to see. Anyway, awesome movie. I guess we're moving on to questions.
Let's pull them up. Oh, I got logged out of Twitter for some reason.
Oh.
Great.
Well, I got some here.
Oh.
Where did these questions come from?
Our Reddit page!
Oh.
r/Sardonicast. If you want to ask questions, go to Sardonicast Reddit, and we'll look at them.
I'm happy about how enthusiastic you are mentioning
I'm
the Reddit.
so fucking pumped.
Gosh, where did all this excitement come from?
I don't know.
These questions must be pretty damn good.
Did you snort
that's how
some
good they are.
cocaine?
Yeah!
Whoa. All right. Great impression.
Shall I pull one out? Shall I pull one out of the hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got one here from Mediocre Cartoonist, who asks, what is, in your opinion, the best action scene ever? Go ahead.
So there's 3 action scenes in the film Children of Men. and all
yeah.
3 of them are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And each one is like almost as good as the last. Like
Yeah.
sometimes they're better. The first action scene with it's all one take in a car, and they're being chased.
That was amazing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible. And when you look at the behind the scenes of how they did it, it's like they rigged the whole car to the seats to go down when the camera goes over it.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really
so much
impressive.
coordination in that film.
Yeah,
Amazing
and then
cinematography.
there's like this giant rig on top of the car. It's so cool. And then you got the last action scene, which is one take as Clive Owen's running through the apocalypse, and there's like a tank fucking shooting buildings, and you're like, oh my god, how did you coordinate all this? It's amazing. So yeah, I have to go with those. And Mad Max Fury Road, the entire movie, is the second best action scene.
All right, Alex, do you have one?
Is just saying the Raid like a cheat? Like
No,
the Raid 2?
Go for it.
Raid has some awesome ones.
Say it,
The
boy.
Raid 2, I think, especially. I also like the corridor fight in Old Boy.
Fuck.
yeah.
That was my answer. Why did you pick 2?
Oh, really? Oh, well.
LOL.
I have one more, too.
There's a bunch we can go through.
I like the Helm's Deep battle, if that counts as like an action set piece, just for the
classic.
insane scale of it. I think that was really impressive.
That scene in Old Boy is very incredibly impactful to me because, first of all, just what the film sets up beforehand and like the desperation in the character at that point. And then second, just I love how far back the camera is in a perspective that you could never get from like actually filming in a hallway. Like you have to kind of create a set for it, but it still seems realistic because of just how we imagine it above and below area are just kind of like blacked out. And then on top of that, all of the choreography that went into it is just it's one of few fight scenes where it's like, okay, this is believable, because every other location that you get for a fight scene, it's like, okay, well, there's so many opportunities where all these henchmen can come at this guy at once from like 4 different angles, but in a hallway it's more believable because there's only 2 angles to work with, and you see the henchmen or whatever you want to call them, like all these guys that he's fighting, the ones that aren't attacking yet, you can see this like confused and almost like paralyzed fear on their face where it's like, okay, like that guy's fucking idiot, right? But it's not in a way where it seems just like incredibly convenient. And there are parts where like they all attack him at once, you know, and they're like kicking him on the ground and it seems like he's fucking done, but he gets out of it and it's all like, it's one of the most realistic fight scenes I've ever seen in my life, and it's just so cool. And it's a great movie too. I would recommend that to anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, it is.
Make sure you see the original from 2003, not that shitty Spike Lee 2013 remake where they did not give any kind of a shit about any of the stuff we're talking about that makes the movie special. Don't watch that one.
But they imitated the hallway fight scene.
Yeah, they did.
And it
kind of.
It's so bad.
And then he's like fighting in front of a fence.
Yeah, it's like, why is there this fence in front of it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And it's like, none of it is done well. I hate that movie so fucking much.
I love how clumsy that fight scene in Old Boy is, where it's just like people are getting hit and they're like on the floor and they're constantly missing each other. And of course, Spike Lee goes against that.
Yeah, I hate...
It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. Spike Lee's version, he's a piece of shit.
Just for that movie? I like Spike Lee a lot. Like, I love him, but... Yeah, that's not one of his best movies.
Do you love Miracle on the St. Anna or whatever that one was called?
I haven't seen it.
It was bad.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, it was bad.
I love action scenes that are clumsy like that, which is also why I love that Children of Men fight scene.
Yeah.
I think it's good to mention also Saving Private Ryan, which is basically, I think that movie innovated action scenes and set like a whole new precedent. That opening Omaha battle is incredible, and that town fight at the end is incredible. And each scene's like 20 minutes long, and there's no music, and it's just horrifying to watch. So, bless that movie as well.
I'll have to throw in a variety of scenes from Kill Bill. I love Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Like those are super fun. Crazy 88 scene and like just how that transitions like action into action into action. Like the crazy 88s are done and then she fights the fucking crazy ball and chain girl. I forget her name. Before Oren Ishii, you know? Like there's so much in that fucking movie. Even the fight scene between Uma Thurman and Vivica A. Fox is just awesome. And it's a short one at the beginning of the movie. Like some of the best fight scenes are in Kill Bill. I love that movie for a variety of reasons.
Great campy action. I love movies that have like there's this big build up to this giant action set piece rather than having a few little ones. Kill Bill has that little one at the beginning, but the rest of the movie is just a build up to this epic fucking scene.
What about the
that's at the end?
The like prison transfer in The Dark Knight.
Oh, that's a great one too. I was thinking about that. Some of the editing's a little weird, but it doesn't really bother me because the sound design is so good.
Yeah. Another one I can shout out is the intro of Casino Royale, with the parkour all over the cranes and stuff.
Yeah, that's a fucking good one. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim has some great campy fight scenes. I love them. Each of them are so, unique.
Hot Fuzz has some fun ones too. Speaking of Edgar
Hot Fuzz.
Oh yeah, another one I should probably shout out, the basketball scene from Catwoman 2000. That one was one of the best filmed action scenes I've ever seen.
How about the fight scene between Elektra Nachios and Daredevil at the playground?
Fighting a blind man.
And Daredevil. Yeah.
So because he's trying to get laid.
Yeah, and they're balancing on the seesaws. Yeah. Oh, that's such a great movie.
She still believes that he's completely blind after that, even though they're like fighting in this fucking place. Oh, what a good movie.
Such a good movie.
He's such a creep. He's basically lying about his disability. He can see with like echolocation anyway. Yeah. Basically, he can see people smoke.
I don't know if animated movies count, but these the fight scenes in The Incredibles are pretty fucking cool too. I mean, I know it's animated, so it's not as cool, but just
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's well choreographed.
They're well choreographed and animated. All right, I think that's enough.
Yeah, that's late.
We listed quite a few. Alex, you got those questions?
Yeah,
I still can't.
I have one here from the Movie Bagel, who asks, have you ever had a strong reaction from watching a movie? Some examples would be a movie making you feel sick or a movie making you feel really anxious or stressed. I have quite a good one to start us off. I think someone actually replied to this question in the Reddit with the same answer, but mine would be Nocturnal Animals. That movie, I really adore that movie, but it made me feel quite ill for a couple of days.
That's cool.
After that one, yeah,
that was a great movie.
Which made it that much more effective to me.
Yeah, I got to see that at TIFF.
One of my favorites now, Nocturnal Animals. Amores Perros did a pretty good job.
Yeah, that is a good answer for that.
Aside from that, I'd say Contagion by Steven Soderbergh.
Interesting.
The movie's about a virus breaks out and kills a lot of people, and that's all the movie's about. And it's just like a realistic depiction of what would happen. And I just find that scenario so terrifying of just like this one virus can just fucking kill half the population in the world.
I fucking swear they strategically timed the release of that movie with like when people would be the most likely to be catching colds. Because like it seemed around that movie, everybody had a fucking cold. So like people would be coughing in the theater or some shit. Like, they show that scene of, just the guy going like on the bus. It's like any other scenario would be the most innocent thing in the world. Everybody was fucking paranoid when that movie came out. It was kind of funny to see what it did to people.
He did such a good job. Like he would show close-ups of people touching things. Like there's no avoiding these fucking germs. Like, once something like this starts, it's basically like the moral of the story is you're fucked.
Yeah. It's a very paranoia-inducing film, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that's it.
And then in terms of other like reactions, I guess like Antichrist would be one for me, like especially a scene at the beginning. Just like it's a very unique film that kind of made me feel like, almost ill in a sense. And then Dear Zachary is just like a fucking punch to the gut. Yeah, the most unique films will have the most unique feelings. So there's tons of movies that get emotional reactions out of me, even though to many people it doesn't seem like it. After Earth is a great one. Well,
if you're gonna go through bad movies, there's a lot of great bad movies that evoke strong reactions out of you.
The Last Airbender.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong reaction.
I cried.
Is sleeping a strong reaction? Because all the DC movies, they made me fall asleep.
Yeah, I think that counts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Did I ever tell you that I fell asleep in the film titled Awake? And I realized how funny it was when I woke up. No, it wasn't intentional. It was just so boring. It had Jessica Alba and then Hayden Christensen. It was really bad. And I legitimately fell asleep in that movie, and I woke up and I started laughing.
Isn't she in a coma, or someone's in a coma in that movie? And they could hear everything.
It's a horror-ish
that.
kind of movie, and it's like, oh, she has locked-in syndrome, and the anesthetics aren't working. But then it takes it so much further than just being a simple concept, and there's this whole dumb fucking like, oh, but secretly it's all part of a conspiracy thing in it, and I was like, oh fuck, I fell asleep.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
It was really boring.
I bet it sounds fucking boring.
Yeah.
Are we done with that one?
Yeah, I guess
got one more question here. All right, this one's from Hanky-chan.
My boy.
Your boy? You know Hanky-chan?
Hanky-chan is a poster on my subreddit, and I think a patron of mine also. And the username comes from my favorite director, Michelle Haneke, and I have called him Hanky-chan before for some reason. So.
Okay. Well, you have been noticed by the gods, Hanky-chan.
Yes.
So he just asks, what's your favorite video game? Simple. We've never said our favorite video game.
Halo Combat Evolved.
Interesting.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, favorite of all time.
Awesome pick.
It's something that I could always go back to. Halo 1 specifically, like 2 and 3 have their own fun elements, I guess, and then 4 is and then 5 is just not even playable. But Halo 1 is like my go-to experience.
I was playing it today, actually. Yeah.
It's my anytime, any feeling kind of game. I'll always go back to it. I'll always want to do like the original multiplayer and co-op. And Halo, the anniversary collection, or not the collection, the anniversary edition on the 360. I think that's the only like full game that I've ever gotten 100% achievements on. And I'm trying to do that on the Master Chief collection right now.
Yeah.
I've been trying for a while, and it's very tedious, especially because of how broken the game is and how achievements don't work sometimes. But I love the original Halo to death. Soundtrack, amazing. Story, awesome. Like, everything about it. The playability, the weapons, like, everything just flows so fucking well. So much fun jumping around, and yeah, I have a blast playing that game.
That's cool. I also love Halo, but it's not my pick for now. I'm going to pick Inside is my favorite.
That's a good
one.
one.
You guys played that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I replayed it recently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really fun one. A really cool one.
Yeah.
I like
really cool.
I like kind of like small team developer games like that can bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, I just found it really refreshing.
And you considered it a lot better than Limbo? You played Limbo as well?
I do. I way prefer it over Limbo.
It's recent, though. You'd still consider it your favorite game, even though you recently...
One I've played recently, I guess.
Like for
Adam
me, like
already
a
took
great
Halo,
game...
so...
Oh, okay. Well, like a great game for me is when you play like just your whole fucking life and you always go back to it.
I don't know. Like my second favorite game is The Witness, and that's a fairly recent game. And I don't need to play it a million times for it to understand that the experience I got on my first playthrough is one of the most meaningful experiences I've ever had playing a game.
There's also a lot of content in The Witness too. Like Inside is, I think, 2 or 3 hours long, right?
Yeah, you can do it in like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's your right to think that, but for me,
it's my right.
Answer would be, it's your right. GTA 4.
Oh yeah.
And I guess GTA 5, since it's just GTA 4 but an update. I played that game so much, and all you do is just fucking... like, the story is fine and all that, but I just like going around the city, exploring, and shooting people, and fucking around with friends.
Yeah.
I've had so much fun.
I could get into GTA 5 much easier than I could GTA 4.
Yeah, GTA 4 is definitely clunkier, but I like the clumsiness of the controls in that. It's just... to me, that makes it more fun. That you're just chasing after someone, you'll get fucking hit by a car, or you'll miss your punch or something. It just makes it that much more intense. 5 is definitely smoother, but yeah, I love 5 too. And there's our VR mod for 5.
How do you guys feel about Red Dead?
Oh, I love
Red
Dead
man,
too.
Yeah, that's a great game.
I can't wait for one of my picks
sequel.
too. Yeah.
That would be third for me.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just I do whatever I want in a Western setting.
Yeah. That's one of I think that was the first kind of open world, like Rockstar-ish style game where I actually continued with the story and did what I was supposed to do instead of just dicking around and getting bored and shutting it off.
Yeah.
Same.
I actually cared about my reputation in that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a good person.
I liked the progression of the game overall. It was a nice kind of story, even though it wasn't like overly complicated or anything. On my first playthrough of the game, I as soon as I got to like the town kind of area where like the buildings are a little newer, I went to the bar and I pushed people up the stairs because if you like run into them, you can kind of like push them in a certain direction. And then I learned how to push them out of the window at the top of the bar and they die. But it wouldn't register in the game that I killed them, so there would be nobody after me. And so I spent like hours doing this, and I pushed like the entire bar out of the window until there was just this pile of bodies and so much blood on the floor in the entrance of this bar. And it was so fucking crazy because I learned about this detail that they put in the game where if people walk over blood on the ground, they leave bloody footprints. And so I go back into the bar, and there's bloody footprints all over the fucking bar of people just casually walking around having drinks and all these dead bodies in front of it. It looked like something out of like The Shining. It was so crazy. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, did you ever
I love
just
fucking
like,
around.
you tie people up and put like 10 of them on a railway track?
Oh, no, I didn't do that.
Train to come. I love doing that shit.
Man. It's a great game. I cannot wait for the sequel.
It's so good.
I'm so excited,
me
actually.
Too. Rockstar always does a great job. I love Max Payne 3 as well.
Except LA Noire, but I think that was a side studio or something.
Yeah, that was Team Bondi, I think, made that. And LA Noire is fun in a different way.
I could only play the VR version. I got very disappointed with the actual version when it came out. Because when it was coming out, I was like,
boring.
I was hoping for like Red Dead, you know?
Yeah.
And I rented the game. And I like smoked the big bowl because I was like 15 or something, like 17. I don't know. But I was like ready to get invested. I was taking it super seriously. And like as I was playing the game, I'm like, this is fucking stupid. What a waste. What a waste of technology. They use that like facial capture shit where it's like the whole marketing behind the game was like, oh, you can see every detail in the actor's performance. You can see every little flinch of their eyes, and the key part of the game is to be able to tell whether or not they're lying. But then all the acting sucked.
They all overact. They overreact to everything.
I'm telling the truth right now. Wink, wink.
Yeah, and then it looks like they sat on a cactus or something. It's like, you're clearly lying.
Then they changed this for the VR version, I guess, because it was so fucking stupid. But they had this when you were interrogating people, it was like truth, lie, or doubt. But they never, at any point, really ironed out the difference between lie and doubt. To a point where I was just like, I used it in one context, I was like, doubt. And then it was like, no, that was the wrong one. And I'm like, okay. And so then later in the game, there was like an identical scenario. I'm like, okay, so this time it has to be lie, right? And it's like, no, it's doubt. And they just seemed interchangeable. But yeah, they got that out of the VR version.
I replayed it recently, the whole thing, with like friends of mine, and we just fucked up everything. We got 1 star, we ran over people constantly, we did tons of damage, and we still, like, nothing happened. There were no consequences for any of it.
Wow.
I don't think we got a single question right the entire playthrough.
Yeah. It's not a very good game.
No, it isn't.
But the VR one's really funny.
Yeah. It's all pretty
dick
funny.
around.
Just how what's the fun of being a cop? You know, it's like GTA. If you couldn't kill people, that's what LA Noire is. It's boring. I want to hit people.
All right, do we have one more question to wrap it up?
One more.
I don't know. If you have one more, then we can do
3.
one more. Yeah.
I get loads of them, so I'll just go until we're done. One more. I noticed we got a lot of questions about a certain idea or concept. That concept being the idea of objectivity. Let me just choose one of them because there were like 3 or 4 people that all asked basically the same thing. I would pick this one from Darth Little, who says, "Is there any objective, i.e., can a film be objectively good/bad, value to film, or is it all inherently subjective? People respond to different aspects of filmmaking differently and see meaning and purpose in different choices made by the filmmakers that others don't. So I believe it is entirely subjective."
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah?
I agree with that in the same way that I agree with by technicality everything ever is subjective because the only lens in which we can view the world is through our own subjective experience. But I will use I guess kind of an analogy in a sense that there's no such thing as being truly unbiased. Like, everyone has a bias no matter what, in the same way that everything is subjective. But you can still be less biased. You can still be less subjective. You know, there are certain elements where you can say, like, are pushing more towards objective, even though they could never, ever achieve true objectivity. But you could say that there are more objective-ish elements than subjective-ish elements, as long as, I guess, most people agree to that in some sort of sense. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I completely
like in the same, like, music is an art form, but music theory is math. You know?
Yeah.
In the same sense, I think there are some measurable like qualities, like in Suicide Squad, there's a part where the text is like black on like a black background, and you can't see it like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could ever defend something like that.
Well, you could say, well, the characters are evil, so they put black text, and it's like blurring the line between. Like, you could come up with some shit.
Yeah,
that's why
it's hard also to argue against plot holes that have a ton of like evidence that are going against them. You know?
Yeah. The film not being able to like follow its own rules is, you know, I would say a more objective complaint than subjective.
Yeah. There are more objective complaints, and there are like filmmaking guidelines that we all basically agree with are good. Like, if you have a sound in the background, that's usually not good.
Or if the camera's out of focus.
Yeah, exactly.
If the camera's out of focus, right?
Yeah,
like, that's not good.
Certain elements and qualities where, you know, there's obviously a goal that the director has in mind, or that, you know, an audience has in mind for what makes a film quote unquote good, but everyone's emotional and personal experience watching the film is still subjective by default.
Yeah.
You know, so like whether or not you liked it is just a completely subjective thing. Or when you say, I would have preferred for this to happen, even though there's not anything technically wrong with how it was presented, but I would have preferred this. Like, that's incredibly subjective.
It comes down to how intentional you think certain things are. Like David Lynch, Inland Empire looks like shit, right? But I guess people thought it was intentional. I'm like, yeah, some of it's intentional, maybe not. So I guess that's another deciding factor. Is if the filmmaker actually wanted to make something look bad, or if he made a mistake.
Well, I mean,
who knows?
The more cryptic and metaphorical your film is, the more subjective people's experiences are going to be. Because it is difficult to tell what's intentional and what isn't when so much of a film is non-literal, right? But when it's being played very straight, then it is easier to kind of pick out those points. At the end of the day, the emotional experience is what I would say would be the most subjective in terms of what you can get out of the film. Because you can say something like, that film wasn't funny, but to a lot of people it was. You know, like, a sense of humor is incredibly subjective. So
yeah. I mean, let's look at a film like Rampage, which I've seen.
Oh, great.
Technically, it's a perfect movie, because all the sound design is good, and, like, the visual effects are good, and, you know, it's in focus. So why is a movie like that bad?
There you go. You cut it. You fucking nailed it on that one.
It isn't. That's right. It's a 5 out of 5.
I wish I could comment on that film, but I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, I mean...
That'll be my next film recommendation.
I flipped a coin before going into either Ready Player One or Rampage, and it landed on Ready Player One. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
So that's how you decided.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good job, everybody.
Good answers, everybody.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So now we are moving into the end of our podcast, where another film gets recommended. And we have a recommendation from Ralph. Because
it's me this week.
Oh, okay. How is it? How is it happening this week? Oh yeah, wait. I'm so confused. My schedule is so out of whack. Are we doing the thing?
Wait,
because
let's cut it out.
Let's
cut this out.
Yeah, we'll cut this out.
Yeah, Chris isn't next episode. It's the one after. So I'm gonna recommend Mommy next time.
I could check my calendar because we're recording.
Yeah, double check.
No, it is the next episode. That's 2 weeks from now.
Okay, so it is Ralph then.
So I guess I'm gonna recommend the movie.
Yes.
Because we have a special guest coming on. And
yes, we have a special guest next week, probably.
And that special guest is Movie Bob, everybody. We're gonna watch. We're gonna watch the film Mommy, which is by. What the fuck's his name? Felix? What the fuck's the guy's name who made it?
Xavier Dolan.
Xavier Dolan.
French-Canadian
Filmed by
man.
Xavier Dolan in 2014. It's an excellent movie, and we're going to show it to our guest coming on next podcast, Chris Stuckmann.
Yes.
World-renowned film critic. Chris Stuckmann.
It is,
I can't wait.
I don't think Alex has seen it. I've seen it.
I haven't. No,
I would
it's on
love
my
to.
watch list, but
I would
never got
definitely
around
love
to
to talk about it on the podcast. Ralph and I kind of talked. We figured it's something that we wanted to introduce to Chris. So that's why we're kind of doing the recommendations out of order. So I guess Alex, you'll be next week or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But we kind of wanted to
we'll
line
figure
it
it
up with the schedules and when we could get guests. So
it.
Chris
Yeah.
Stuckmann, prepare to get Stuckmannized,
Yay!
everybody.
Oh, hell yeah. It's still his intro.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh,
And
can't
if
wait.
for some odd reason he responds that he's not available that day, then we'll just like record an alternate ending or something.
Do an alternate ending.
Yeah, we should have one ready just in case. So if you're
You
hearing
could do like a
this
text-to-speech program.
Oh yeah, that's funny. If you're hearing this ending on the podcast, then Chris Stuckmann is confirmed for next episode.
Yeah.
Good.
And I guess that makes another episode.
Another one for the books.
If you want to join in on the discussion for the film Mommy, make sure to watch the film before 2 weeks from when you hear this. And it will be a spoiler discussion. If you would like to support the podcast, we all have our own YouTube channels that you can subscribe to. And some of us have Patreons too. We will be having a website apparently, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
We're still looking to get approved on Spotify, aren't we?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Still just
I
waiting
haven't heard
back
anything
on
for
that one.
ages.
It's all screwed up.
Yeah. Like we're
Spotify
trying to get on
hasn't gotten back to
Spotify,
us.
but apparently they all have to be approved.
I'm
like
trying
all
to
the
monetize
podcasts?
SoundCloud. They're like, nah. So,
Yeah, we're having
Who
some
knows?
difficulties, but we're working on it, boys. So
Give us a
stay
break,
tuned.
guys, all right?
Yeah,
we're trying.
yeah,
We're doing our best.
we're trying really
All right.
hard. All right,
Guess that's it.
thank you, everybody. Bye, bye,
Thanks for
Bye.
listening, folks. Bye-bye.
bye.